is that in Wu-Sabat, or let's put it like this, all it takes is a shift of 1 degree to move in the right direction. It's 1 degree shift. And as we keep on walking and start making small steps of 1 degree, once you made a 30-degree shift, in consciousness as well, once you make a 30-degree shift, we completed 1 house of the Dendera circle. Now, when we say all it takes is a 1 degree shift, what we mean is, as you take 1 degree shift physically, you're also taking a 1 degree shift mentally or spiritually. And remember, there are 12 houses of the zodiac, and 1 complete circle of the zodiac is 360 degrees. Each house is 30 degrees. So 30 degrees times 12 gives you 360 degrees. So you would have completed, if you keep on taking that 1 degree shift, 1 degree shift, you then will complete 1 full cycle of 360 degrees physically and 360 degrees spiritually, which will equate to 720 degrees. So we're going to go into those realities. So the question we like to ask is, to listen, audience, to yourself somehow, what is reality? That's the first question. What is reality? Simple. Someone says to you, bro, what is reality? Clubhouse Zoom, someone says, what is reality? You want to take the mic, bro? It's a long walk on the short path. There's no right or wrong answer. You just won't make it if you get it wrong. Go ahead. What is reality? Someone says to you,
your perception on reality.
Correct.
Your perception on the world.
Correct. That's right. How we perceive things. That's right. Yeah. Okay. That's 100% right. Anything? Okay. So we perceive a world. So reality is based upon our perception. Anything else? Okay. Anybody else on Clubhouse, Zoom? Someone asked the question. Keep that thought there. Someone asked the question, what is reality? Brotherhead, what's your name, Samuel? Kwame says reality is based upon our perception, how we perceive things, which is correct. Anybody else? Robert, Jose?
Yes. Reality is, of course, what we perceive. It was said, but what exists, how we perceive what exists, or what we can imagine.
What we can say that, not us that. What we can.
What exists or what we can imagine, because there are things that probably don't exist that we still imagine them.
All right, yeah. So reality is based, what you're saying is reality is based not just upon our perception, but based upon what we construct, is what you're saying, awareness?
You can put awareness on, I used imagination.
Imagination.
But yeah, there is various degrees on that will take to awareness, as you said, because we can talk like a reality, inner reality, outside reality, and combine both in order to have a kind of a universal perception, per se, or understanding or the environment that we are in, because at the end of the day, we are part of the all, and all is part of ourselves. So that's why I'm talking about inner and outer reality simultaneously.
Right, 100% right. I like how you put that. Reality is not just based upon our perception, but based upon what we imagine, or when you say what we imagine, basically talking about what we create in our own minds. So reality is basically whatever we make it. And we are, in actuality, when you say reality is based upon our imagination, meaning that when we say reality is whatever we make it, what we are saying is, in essence, is we are co-creators of our own reality, whether we know it or not. Now, what's happened is, oh, sorry, when we use that, let me say, when we use the term co-creators of our own reality, meaning this ties in to the next part of the question is our reality influenced by ourselves? Is our reality influenced by external conditions or both? Is our reality influenced by ourselves? Is it influenced by external conditions? Or is our reality, or is reality, I should say, or you can use the word our reality, is it influenced by external forces or both?
Both.
Both.
Both, of course.
Correct. You know, when we say both, so what examples can you give us of our reality being influenced by external forces?
You're talking to me now.
Easy.
Take your mic, Simone. Take your mic. On call. Go ahead.
You're here talking now, and the reality is you were punctual because you either drove here on time or you took public transport on time, and the driver was not here this morning, so therefore somebody would have replaced him, and they might not have been punctual. Plus yourself, your circumstances made you get to a certain place at a certain time, and also the driver, and also the factors around you. That's what makes you here now, makes you who you are. External factors that you have no control over.
Right. So what you're saying is reality is also not, you say reality is not just influenced by ourselves, but when you talk about external forces,
Yeah.
you talk about there are variables within our lives or our daily experience. 100% correct. Now, there are external forces that influence our lives, be they agreeable or disagreeable forces. Okay. Let's say there are, and these forces, agreeable and or disagreeable forces, can coerce us to do that which we ought to do or ought not to do to produce an intended result, be their forces agreeable or disagreeable, that can coerce us to do what we ought to do and what we ought not to do. When we say that, what we mean is we live in an environment whereby the disagreeable forces wants us is to they have constructed a reality for us.
Right.
What they do is they do this by Hades. They construct an irreality. Those forces, what they done is they went to ancient Egypt, learned the principles, and refigured it
And use it against us.
That's right. That's correct. But here it is, not just us, but the planet. They turn that which is agreeable to disagreeable. And by doing that, enforce a spell of sleep, a hypnotic spell of sleep. So we live in what's called an illusion or an artificial reality. Partner Babianan and Wu-Sabat, Wu-Sabat is here to break that spell of sleep. But the master had predecessors, people who came before him, who were gifted by way of the forces of nature to open up the door slightly. And there, let's say Marcus Garvey, Malcolm X, Donald Large, etc., predecessors before the master, who came here to waken our people up to a certain point. And those principalities in high places have the mindset, if you ever think of waking up from this spell of sleep, it could be your worst nightmare. That is how they constructed it. That's why they take them out. If there's anybody, especially say a Negroid, Negroid, male or female, they look upon, if this individual is influential in waking his people or her people up from that deep sleep that they're in, those people in those principalities, they say, you do that, it can be your worst nightmare. So what they do is either take them out or put them in prison. And as to say to the people on the outside, this is what happens to one of your people, or happens to, if any one of you think you want to wake up or wake up others from this spell, this is what we're going to do to you. And they instill this word called FEAR, which is, but we know fear as an acronym, meaning false
Evidence appearing real.
Exactly. That's what they instill up in our people, in the minds of the people. This thing called false evidence appearing real. Because their worst fear is people waking up. Now, it's like this. The only way that this spell of sleep or this irreality can be enforced is by having what's referred to as a collective consciousness. The more minds they got asleep and thinking on this low vibratory frequency, the more it can perpetuate, and the longer it can perpetuate this irreality. Conversely, the more people, the more of a collective consciousness that can be had amongst the people to break the spell of sleep would dissipate. You see how they're working it? So this is the formula the master teacher is using to break the spell. He's using the spell to break the spell. He said, we are under a spell of sleep, and this is the spell. You have to bring to our attention, this is the spell that we are under. And this is what we need to do to break the spell that we are under. One of the greatest tools that they use is called religion. Thinking that divinity is outside of ourselves. Because as long as we maintain that mindset, that divinity and co-creation is outside of ourselves, we can never make that journey inside out and realize with our real eyes that I do not have to be a participant in this irreality. Rather, I am a co-creator, or hear this word, an architect of this reality, of my reality. So there are two creators, or two, we say co means two creators. We have what we call the universal creators, or they use the grand architect of the universe. But hear this, We heard the saying of one of the Houthi teachings of correspondence, as above, so below. We too are a miniature universe. Each and every one of us are a miniature universe. They use the term that we are a microcosm of a macrocosm. Heard that term before? Micro means small, macro means large. So we are a microcosm of the macrocosm. And the same way how the universal forces create universes and galaxies and planets and stars, etc., we too are a miniature universe. That makes us architects of our own universe in conformity to the higher laws. All we need to do is become conscious of that, hear this word, reality. And we start to co-create our own reality. We start to see past the veil, or we start to think outside of the box. And when we start to think outside of the box, we say this in many class, we start to use this process called reasoning. Sound right reasoning. Any questions, comments, observations so far? Okay, let's continue. I'm going to scroll here. I just want to run excerpt from. Go ahead, Samuel.
What would be you mentioned the process or the effect of the collective consciousness? What would take us there? What is it exactly? I didn't get it.
Oh, yeah, very good question. Wu-Sabat. That's it. Wu-Sabat is the tools that is needed to take us out of the spell. Or Wu-Sabat is pa-tarak, the way to take us out of that spell of sleep. Or not only do we need the way, we also need what we call hakak al-hakak-at, actual facts, the master secrets, are all under the umbrella of Wu-Sabat. Wu-Sabat is part, right? The way. And remember, we always say that Wu-Sabat or Wu-Nawab, the replacement, Wu-Nawupu, is our spiritual science and universal knowledge. And the operative word we say, the two operative words here, spiritual science, meaning that our spirituality is scientific in nature. And anything that is not scientific is insubstantial, meaning it lacks substance. And anything that lacks substance means it is unreal or an irreality. Because anything that's insubstantial means then that it's placing its adherents and subscribers and those who ascribe and subscribe to something that's insubstantial, they become believers that believe on faith, hope, and all those things that help to enforce the spell of sleep. But this is what the master teacher says here. This is from Breaking the Spell on Blacks, page 19. The reason the spell has existed for so long is because the spell itself is hypnotic and you are in a state of amnesia. We have forgotten. Forgotten what? Forgotten right knowledge. It says on the tape for Elohim, we don't know right from wrong. We don't know what color it is. We don't even know what day and time we're in. We only know these things based upon what we have been taught. However, that was for a cycle, or we say a 6,000 year cycle. And Now we are in a different day, time, and cycle. Or we say we were in what we call a moon cycle. Now we're in what's called a sun cycle or gold cycle, from a silver cycle to a gold cycle. We're coming out of a evolutionary cycle. We're now in a revolutionary cycle, an evolutionary reverse. The forces, or we should say correctly, those 9 etheric forces is aspiring to our advancement. The forces is pulling us back up to our true state of divinity as 9 etheric beings. When we say that, what we mean is that we are both physical and spiritual beings. I don't like to use the word spiritual, or we say Wu-Sabat. We are physical, khatat al khatat, or khatat al mukwan u, physical beings, and we are also mu'akh-akh-u, etherics, mu'akh-akh-u, Etherians. We are Etherians in human form, clothed in flesh. The master calls it a skin suit. All we have to do now is begin to take those small 1-degree steps to shift our perception of how we perceive things, or our perception is based upon a lie. How we perceive things, or how we perceive things, is based upon a lie or an irreality. Okay? I don't know, this is coming from the formation, page. So, not formation. Let's continue the excerpt. It's coming from Breaking Spell of Blacks. The spell, the science to break the spell is Nuwapo Wu-Sabat, taught through the AEO, Ancient Egyptian Order, the highest of all mystery systems, taught by those venerable black master teachers like Pandabab Yananan. This science, Wu-Sabat, only works with nature, meaning aligning our souls with those 9 etheric forces and its atmosphere of this new sun cycle, the revolutionary cycle after the year 2000 AD, meaning the time is now for this affirmation to be released within the atmosphere. Because the time is now. Okay, this is coming from page 22 of Breaking Spell on Blacks. Facts can be rejected, but they cannot be disproved, for facts are facts. The Hika Chasud, we know as Palm Castle, did not and will not teach others besides their own race any real knowledge about universal powers and forces, which will enable others to rule themselves. Meaning other races are not going to give, other races are not going to give woolly-haired people real universal knowledge and black magic powers, because real spiritual and universal knowledge is where real ruling power is found and exercised. So once we have real ruling power, once we have this right knowledge, we become self-governing. This is what Wu-Sabat is all about. Pandabab Yananan is creating what we call a sovereign nation, autonomous or self-governing nation. So it's not just 1 or 2 people coming together, reading 2 books and having a good conversation, but it is nation. So goes back to that term he said, Wu-Sabat is our universal knowledge, as it says here. Other races are not going to give woolly-haired people real universal knowledge and black magic powers. And the black magic powers is this 9 ether knowledge, Wu-Sabat. This is something they, Pandabab some of who ghost men may have knowledge of, yet still cannot exercise this spiritual power, 90th power, on their own without the help of Negroids. Like you said before earlier on, they have studied the Hermetic sciences, or we say the sacred wisdom of Tahuti, or the teachings of Tahuti, but there are guardians behind we say within the mental plane. There are guardians behind that not any and everybody can access those higher portals. Go ahead, take the mic and go.
I didn't want to intervene or interrupt while you were talking, but listening to what you're saying, what do you think of people, whether you would call them woodier people, black, whatever other white people in the Western world and Africa, nationwide, internationally, we need to be dealing with basics. The three main blocks things that are put together to make mankind powerful, physically, mentally, otherwise spiritually, is that there's a necessity of man to satisfy three basic needs in order to progress, which mean whether one is an individual, whether one is part of a family, whether man is part of a village setting, a country setting, or a continental setting. It means that we must first and foremost satisfy three things: food, shelter, and clothing. And the nation, individual who has not been able to satisfy these things are basically can be termed as unstable. Wherein, in order to go forward, the basic things that internationally that we need to master those basics. What I'm pointing out is, if you look around you, and the food we eat, the food we grow in Africa, elsewhere, somebody sells us, we plant it, somebody sells us, we buy it, and somebody becomes rich, powerful, and able to educate, clothe, feed their own based on resources which is ours. So don't you think there's a necessity to look at our reality around us? One of the most basic things, regarding the progress of human, in other words, all people are born equal, but that which is necessary for progress, the expansion of the mind, the imagination, the ability to try and progress, it all depends on how stable you and your surrounding is. So now, what do you think of addressing what we can see around us, i.e. our basic food? We don't make anything to wear, and we don't build houses. Now, don't you think that is a necessary part of the scenario in order to progress?
Yeah.
Physically, spiritually, and economically.
Yeah. Yeah, 100% right. Now, the first thing that people need in order to progress, is right knowledge. Because they say we need food, shelter, and clothing. which is an actual fact, you see, and we should be doing for self and kind. But the society that we live in has been so constructed to make us think that we have, it's like this, they give us a fish and they feed us for a day. But if I teach you how to fish, I feed you for life. However, if I'm the one who constructed this irreality, do you think I'm going to teach you how to fish so that you will no longer need me? What we will learn, what is taught to us, is taught the curriculum or the educational structure is being structured or constructed by those who's enforcing the spell.
Okay.
Whether it's from kindergarten to university level.
Sorry, continue. Okay.
Is the mic on? Is it on?
Yeah. Sorry, continue. The basic point I want to get to, you early on mentioned religion. Now, millions of our people are waiting for the second coming. They've been waiting for a couple of thousand years, but it will come anytime now. And our people are got a mindset wherein they believe that this man is going to come back and all our sins, all our failings, everything will be restored when he comes, and they're waiting. And have you taken that into consideration, amount of our people who are waiting for the second coming, which they expect to be any time now?
All that religion, be it me to my hand the West, all under the umbrella of Abrahamism, which is Mosesism, Jesusism, and Mohammedism. These are all part of his construct. These are from, has its origins in Mesopotamia, or what they call Iraq, Iran, in them regions. What is our original religion? If someone's going to say, what's the first religion on this planet? You know what it will be? It's called Animism. Animism means, someone who's an animist, we say muftaris in Mispatia. We say muftaris. An animist is one who acknowledges that everything of natural nature has a living spirit, has a spiritual connection. Be it, I've listened to a podcast today about that, be it mountains, be it the water, be it the plants, be it the animals. Anything and everything that is of natural nature is alive. Meaning that we can make communication with it. Take communication to the mountains. Hey, minerals were here before human beings. Crystals were here before human beings. Minerals were here first on the planet. And the master tells us that in the formation, see if I've got that part right down, read something. I've got it in my head. It's in my head. Find it. Right. He says, the Master Jesus says in the part that I call the formation. I've got it here. That everything was alive. This thing called death never existed. Now, you say, this was about 72 million years ago. So we're talking about, let us explain it like this. There are cycles upon cycles upon cycles. There's universal cycles, there's galactical cycles, and there's planetary cycles. And during the last, going back 24,000 years ago, we're at the first sun cycle right now. If we go back to the first sun cycle, this thing called death never existed. Everything was alive, the atmosphere was alive. That means then that we was in communication with the living that was in and around us. We never had no need for religion as been taught to us in this day and time. Whether it's the monotheistic religion. That's part of his construct. The Master Jesus put it like this. The helping hand that we're looking for is at the end of our own two arms. But when we say Savior, we call the Master Teacher a Savior. Why? Because he has come with that knowledge, which is our means of salvation. There's salvation, and there's another term we call liberation. Liberation basically means freedom from the opposing forces of whatever they may be. That is liberation. Salvation is keeping those opposing forces away once a people has been liberated. Thus, liberation precedes salvation. And the one who comes with that liberating let's say, outformation is what we call a mukhlas, a savior. So when people, going back to the Jesus character, let's say it like this. He was a savior to his people, the lost sheep of the house of Israel, which is Judah. So the savior is not him being stuck up on the cross or stake, depending on which book you read. It was the fact that he was a savior because he came with liberation information to his people, but they weren't ready to receive it. And he says it, howbeit, I will, John chapter 14, howbeit, I will send another comforter who reveals the Holy Ghost, and that other comforter was none other than Muhammad. That is for his people, for Muhammad's people. You follow?
When you say, you mentioned the prophet Muhammad, and he said he was for his people. Which people is that?
Oh, who's that? Muhammad?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Sorry, before I answer that question, Venus E says, can you hear us? Someone said they couldn't hear us. I think it could be yourself. Okay, yeah. Muhammad came for his people. Now was the Quraysh tribe. Yeah, Quraysh tribe. That's who the Muhammad came for. You know what I mean?
Right. I'm here with you, and I'm listening to what you're saying, but most of my life I'm trying to increase my knowledge. So I have, turned many corners and try to learn as much as I can, read as much as I can, listen as much as I can, not necessarily practicing everything that I can, but
Yes, be close into the mic because people can't hear you. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm saying basically that I've tried over the years to learn as much as I can. And one of the things that I learned by inquiring and reading was that in the 10th century, when the caliphate of Islam, the Muslim, was in Iraq, one of their great writers was very skilled that in many different fields. A great writer was revered. He was an African in Iraq, and he was offended by certain things that he had observed, and he made a criticism, reminding the other participants in the religion of Islam certain basic historical fact, which he said was written. One of the things he says is written is that Abdullah, keeper of the gates of Mecca had 7 sons, black as the night, one of which was the Prophet Muhammad. Therefore, it has been said, and established and written, and scholars, especially Islamic scholars, will know this, that Muhammad the Prophet was the son of Abdullah, who had 7 sons, and it's written that they were all black as the night, which means they're Africans. Question. When you says Muhammad's people is a messenger for his people, what do you mean by his people? Define that.
Yes, the person, the Iraqi you're talking about is a guy by the name of El Jahiz. That's the writer you're making reference to, correct? El Jahiz. Yeah. And he wasn't really talking about Muhammad, but he talked about Muhammad's father and Muhammad's uncles, yeah, the black as night, etc., etc. So now, with Muhammad never came for the whole world. His message was just for his people, the Quraysh tribe. There were Muhammad, if you go and read the story of Muhammad, when he first got it, first of all, Muhammad got his first revelation in a cave. What was he doing in a cave? You asked him that. And they said, I was meditating. Why, of all places, did he go in a cave to meditate? Because unless he was part of an order. Why did Muhammad go in a cave unless he was part of some order?
I don't quite follow that in the sense of if one really wants to think and meditate, to look at things deeply, one finds that isolation is always best for that element of development of the mind. Isolation makes you think unmolested and your mind explores. Now, so therefore, I can't see the question of the cave. I can't see in a way that is more secluded and good for meditation.
Okay.
This is my point.
Yeah. He's in a cave, got his revelation, and that experience shook him up. After that, the first person he went to was his first wife, Khadija. Khadija, by the way, okay, then Khadija then consulted her uncle, Waraka bin Nafal. He was a Christian. Muhammad's first wife, Khadija, never converted to Islam. Muhammad's life was orchestrated especially by her uncle, Waraka bin Nafal. They were the ones who were orchestrating Muhammad's life. The cave now was because he was part of an order. But I'm not going to tell you that. Now, there are many Muslims around the world who know about the Egyptian mystery systems and cloaked themselves into Islam, became the best of Muslims. Even up to this day. The spiritual masters who are Islamic, from Iraq, from Iran, from Sudan, Ethiopia, etc., etc., spiritual masters. And one of them was whom the master met up with and took him through the pyramids, took him through certain initiations, and this was a Muslim guy. So we're not saying that Islam is a bad thing because just because a person is a Muslim, they are a bad individual. No, we're not saying that. But a lot of people had to cloak themselves into Islam and teach certain secrets under the cloak of Islam. And in Islam, the esoteric side of Islam, the schools that are called Sufism. The esoteric side of Islam are called Sufis. Just like in Christianity, you had those who were called the Essenes. Okay.
Other guy mentioning the Sufis, in certain regions, they're seen as outcast and not part of Orthodox Islam, as seen by others. So at a certain time during the last period of history, they have been singled out as not orthodox, if you see what I'm saying.
You see, we went through the school of, it's the master teacher really entrenched us in the school of religion, especially Islamism, because during that school, we took the time out to read, write, and learn the Arabic of the Quran and say our prayers that called Salah in Arabic. And what is that when you talk about Orthodox Islam, you have to remember that the successorship is through the bloodline. So when Muhammad crossed over to the higher life, the next one in successorship would have been his nephew, Ali, al-Mu'minin, Ali, one of the faithful. But that's who they call the successor, or in Arabic, they use the word Khalifa. However, Muhammad wasn't put in position to be the first successor. It was another guy I read out called Abu Bakr. And from Abu Bakr, it's when you got the Sunni Muslim. And from Ali, it's when you got the Shia Muslim. Right now, as it stands, there are many different sects or denominations of Muslims. So which is the real Muslim? Each have their own different individual practices. You see? So going back again, that there are Muslims today who do acknowledge the ancient Egyptian mystery systems and do practice them. And one person that just come to mind is the Mahdi.
Who?
The Mahdi. Muhammad Ahmed ibn Abdullah. No, not Muhammad. The Mahdi, Muhammad al-Mahdi, I can't remember the guy's name. The al-Mahdi, or the guide of Sudan, say Sudan, but he's from Egypt. And the Mahdi's successor is the master teacher anyway, the master teacher. And he himself was of the Egyptian mystery systems. And they made a movie about the Mahdi of Sudan. That movie is called Khartoum, which Khartoum basically is about when the Mahdi came into Sudan to fight against the British. And he won the war. They won that battle. You see? So this is something that we have covered, we walked through during the school of Abrahamism. However, when we talk about religion, as we said earlier on, our religion, if you can call it a religion, will be today Muftarism or Animism. That's our religion. So we do not ascribe nor subscribe to Allah or Yahweh or Jehovah or any of those schools of thought, because they were just schools to us. Now we have to move up higher and higher and higher and acknowledge the fact that divinity is within each and every one of us. Because we are, as I said earlier on, a microcosm of the macrocosm. If Islamism is the end all and be all of all religion, what do the Riskians, do they pray to Allah as well? Do the Syrians, do the Orionians, the beings, extraterrestrials from different star systems, do they also pray to Allah? They don't. Nothing to do with us. The Master Jesus said that, he said the thing, I came giving you what you wanted, which is you wanted religion, so that you would learn to want what I have really come to give, which is this right knowledge. And as long as we keep our minds locked in the prison gate of religion, how can we really break out and become self-subsisting? Be they Mosesism, Jesusism, or Mohammedism, it was never for us. Not in this sun cycle. Religion had its day, time, and cycle, meaning it has expired. Just like when you buy, I don't know, a food product and it has an expiration date used before 2000 AD, it's like that. It has expired. Nothing to do with us. Master, I only made it believable. I had to make it, Master Jesus said it like this. I had to make religion believable to me so that it'd be believable to you. So, because when I first came in, what Jesus said, when I first came, I never came with religion. I came with Wu-Sabat or Wu-Sabat. But we was asking about the religion of Abrahamism. So he said the thing, I'll put away these books until the ripe time, R-I-P-E, arises, then I'll open up the books and give them what I really have come to give, which is this right knowledge that we're hearing now, that is given us right now. See? So, I want to say this. So we said that, so religion is all part of part of his system, or this system has been so constructed to hypnotize those who ascribe and subscribe to it. It is an artificial construct that is legitimized by its members, who are you and I and the rest of the world. The next question to ask is, what is the solution or the answer? The answer is simply to create your own system. The creation of your own system first starts with yourself. Create the system that's inside of you, meaning start to construct your own reality based upon your conscious mind or your perception, how you perceive things. Shift your means of perception. Okay? So let's go ahead. When we say to create your own system, that is exactly what we mean. Our first operating system is ourselves on a microcosmic level. Acknowledge the fact that we are constructed, we have been so engineered to be in line with those universal forces. We have, as we said earlier on, we have a physical body, we have our etheric or spiritual body. And our physical and spiritual body work hand in hand with those etheric universal forces. There's no separation. And they call that scientifically quantum entanglement. Quantum entanglement basically means everything is connected on a microscopic level. That's what quantum entanglement means. Everything is entangled together, and there's no separation. But we've been tricked. So, as a collective, we can construct an operating system that transforms a sovereign nation of people. What's a sovereign nation of people? Ones who have their own everything, a culture, a name, a land, a language, their own sovereign ruler, and more importantly, their own constitution. By which this is how we live our life as a sovereign nation, autonomous, self-ruling, constructed by us, for us. And if we And if we are in a nation that is not constructed by us, for us, that makes that system alien to us as a people, as a race, for our elevation and progression. We can never elevate if you're under someone else's system. We should be on our own system, our own construct that has been so constructed for us, by us, towards our elevation mentally, physically, and spiritually in all directions. Okay? And these are some of the prerequisites that entails freedom, or the word we used earlier on was liberation and salvation. And this freedom we talk about first starts with mental liberation, and mental liberation starts with giving the people right knowledge or nine knowledge as opposed to trick knowledge. The Master Jesus says said it like this: nothing's right unless the mind is right, and the mind can never be right until it has received and accepted right knowledge. And that is why we have the Master Teacher Parnabab Yanun in our midst. Take it or leave it. There is none more qualified to set the record straight. And let's conclude by saying that the highest form of technology is mental technology, or what we refer to as 9 to the 9th power of 9. We cannot win against his construct, for the laws are all part and parcel of his construct. The judge, jurors, lawyers, and executioners are all constructed by him, for him. So it is futile for us to try and beat him by his rules and regulations. However, his rules and regulations have flaws in it. So we have to use his rules and regulations to our advantage as opposed to our disadvantage. Okay.
There's a few questions on Zoom.
Quick questions on Zoom. Go ahead.
There's a few. So I think this one's from Tavina. It says, "Who is Yahweh?"
Who is Yahweh? Right. Let's say like this, right? When you use the word Yahweh in the Bible, they use the word Yahweh as Lord. In the Bible, you see the word Lord God, but in the Hebrew, you may see Yahweh Elohim. However, that word Yahweh is coming from the word Yahuwah. That word Yahuwah, the Yah is O, and the Hua means he who is who he is. Yahuwah. That Yahuwah, if we go if you took out the vowels, you would have the Ya would be the Yod, you got the H, the Y would be the Yod, the H will be Aha, the W will be a Waw or Waw in Hebrew, and you got another H again, another Ha. So you got Ya, Ha, Waw, and Ha again. If you read that index, okay, so YHWH, that W is none other than two U's. The Y is really an E sound or an I. So you'd be IHUH. You get that? You have YHWH. The Y is an I sound or E sound, correct? The H is a ha sound. The W is just that, two U's. So it'd be a U sound. And you've got another ha again. So you got YH. So you got an I or an E, got a H, you got a U sound, you got another ha sound. If you read that in dyslexia or from right to left, get the word who, he. Who, he is one of the creative forces of will coming from ancient Tamare or ancient Egypt. So the word Yahweh or Yahweh or Jehovah, when it gets even more corrupted, or Yahuwah, is coming from the ancient Egyptian forces of will called Hu, he, feminine and masculine. The Hu is masculine and the he is feminine. These are one of the creative forces of will. So this is the so you can see how they got the so in order for them to construct the Yahweh or let's say from Jehovah to Yahweh to Yahuwah to Hu, he lets you know the source or the origin of it all, which is ancient Egypt. So it means that they went and they studied the Egyptian mystery system, came back, reconfigured it, plagiarized it, diluted it, and give it back to the people. Never thinking that the day will come when someone will be walking the planet Earth to set the record straight. So hope that answered the question there.
There's another one, Zamar. Did you want to take another one from Zoo?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so it's from Terry Jamal.
Hey, Jamal.
Is what I perceive through my senses real, or is it just a projection of my mind?
That's a good one. It's a combination of both. What you see, sorry, repeat that question again because I've got the answer. Let's hear it again, please.
Sure. Is what I perceive through my senses real, or is it's just a projection of my mind?
Right. What we perceive through our senses is real based upon the information that we've been fed. It's good you say that because just before coming here, I wrote something down. And this is coming from, let me give you, before I answer, let me say this is for the listening audience. Let me give you my sources of information. One of it is Sacred Wisdom of Tahuti. Another is you can download the Kabbalion. You can download that, get a PDF from that. And there's a YouTube channel, which I really think will really help everybody, which is called The Library of Thoth, Thoth. Check out that YouTube channel. That's really good information there. And there's one YouTube video they got there, which is called If Reality is a Hologram, then Belief is a Projection. Hear that? If reality is a hologram, then belief is the projection. And you heard that we live in a holographic universe. Everyone's acknowledging that. Meaning our perception or our consciousness is, or awareness is the projector. If belief is the projection, our awareness or what we perceive is the projector. Therefore, what we project or what we believe or regard as real is what is played out in our lives. So when the question is asked, if my reality is based upon what I perceive, is it real or unreal? It is whatever you project on the screen, that projection is real to you. What we believe or regard as real is what is played out in our lives. The question. So the next question is, what is collective consciousness then? Collective consciousness is the mass majority of people ascribing and subscribing to the same false belief system or construct. What we mean by that is this. The reality that we are living right now is something that has been deliberately played or deliberately programmed into our minds that we project out, and we are living that projection. So in order to change the projection, we have to change the projector. And the projector is our conscious mind, our awareness of all how we perceive things. Once we make that shift, once we make that shift of awareness, then our reality starts to change. Put it this way, reality is not fixed, it's malleable, it's fluid, ever-changing. What we mean by that? Scientifically, I don't know if you heard of what's called the double slit experiment. Before I explain about that, there's a video called "What the Bleep Do We Know?" I had that video years and years and years ago, but it's only the other day that I started listening to that video. What the bleep do we know? BLEEP. What the bleep do we know? You can get it on YouTube. By go into it's all that whole video. Most of it's based upon reality. What different physicists are explaining about reality. It's a very simple DVD, easy to use. Go up if you go into the 30 minutes into the video, they talk about the double split experiment, meaning that when they shoot, double split experiment basically means when they shoot electrons through a slit, it emits like a straight line. When they shoot an electron through a slit, electron or a wave particle of light, or electron or a particle, a wave or a particle, when they shoot for a slit, it comes into a straight line is formed on the other end of the projector. However, once it is perceived or being observed, the wave or the particles split into different components. Now, how does that relate to our reality that we are living? What they're saying is the reality that we live in is multi-dimensional, meaning that, or multi-directional, meaning that there are many, how shall I put it, paths of our lives that's played out at the same time. There are many, many different paths we can take in life that's played out at the same time. But once we observe a particular path, that is what manifests. That basically means then that there are many directions we could take in life, all being played out right now. But we focus our attention on one path, that is the reality that we are perceiving or that we are living right now, you see? So life or reality is not fixed. That's why we said in the beginning of the class, what is reality? And the answer was, whatever we make it. So we make our reality ourselves. Then we said, is our reality influenced by ourselves, external forces, or both? And we said both. External forces and ourselves have an influence on our reality, meaning what we perceive. So we can alter the perception of reality by our awareness. If we can alter the perception of our reality, that means we can construct a reality that's conducive to us. That makes us an architect of our own universe. And we said earlier on, when we come as a collective consciousness, we can construct a reality to our upliftment and betterment. So the question asked was about how we perceive reality. Reality is just that, based upon our perception. And it is malleable. It is fluid. It adapts to our state of consciousness. And that is what Wu-Sabat is all about. Changing the construct of what's been forced, or not even force-fed, fed onto us mentally. So we playing it out physically. We are living an reality, someone else's construct. And that is depicted in the movie The Matrix. Don't forget the mic, don't forget the mic.
No, I came, but I got to leave. I give my word to be elsewhere.
Okay.
So, most interesting. I wish I could stay longer. It's interesting. It makes you think, it makes you more aware. So, wish you the best, and I'm just about to depart. Okay?
You know something? You said something very interesting there. Because I'm listening to my own classes on Clubhouse. I've got to replay, and it makes me think. And that is how it is. That is how the classes have been so constructed to make us think. The master said it like this. The master teacher said it like this. I'm not teaching you, I'm not here to teach you how to think. I'm teaching you to think. You know what I mean? So thank you for that, Uncle, for that. Yeah. Yes. Go ahead.
Is it Terry? Do you have a question? I thought I saw someone with their hand up.
Yeah,
Oh, the
maybe
last-
just wanted to
Mhm.
make a follow-up question regarding the question I'd made.
Go ahead, Terry. Terry
Yes.
Tihuti Atten Reye.
So I've understood what you've explained in terms of reality. So I just wanted to find out, is there a universal reality, or it is unique for each and every individual? I just want more clarity on that one.
Yeah, that's a very, very good question. Repeat the question again. Is there a universal reality for each individual?
Is there a universal reality, like something, the reality which is universal, or which is, in this term, I would say maybe it was put by the overseers as the reality, or it is each one has a unique reality based on their experiences?
Hey, that's such a good question. It's unbelievable. That's a very, very good question. Now, the answer to that is simply yes, in the sense that each human being on this planet has their own personal experience. You may have, even in a family, you can have a family, say of four, mother, father, son and daughter, all live in the same household, but each individual is experiencing each individual is having a different experience, which is constructed by higher forces for them. But hear this though. Next level. We asked to come down here in the physical. And we asked for certain schools to go through, necessary for our upliftment in this lifetime, or a particular lifetime. Each experience that we encounter in this lifetime is what we meant to learn from. Look at experiences that we encounter as schools of learning. Once we pass this particular experience, we then move up to the next degree, move on or move up to the next degree. However, let's say you're class one. You pass the experience of class one, then you move up to class two, the next level. The experience that you encountered in class one will still be there, but it will have no effect on your being because you mastered it or you've overcome it. You're now in class two. And the same thing happens through the classes that we go through or through the many degrees that we go through. So there is an individual, universal experience that each and every one of us goes through. Physically, the physical, what we encounter physically has an effect on us spiritually because both of them are interconnected. The Master Teacher said it like this. He said that we do more for the physical than we do for the spiritual. However, we should really feed both of them because there's no separation. But we create an imbalance or we become malnourished spiritually if we do so much for the physical. But it works the other way according to law of correspondence. A person can be so spiritual, they lose touch of reality. When I say lose touch of reality, they lose touch of their physical purpose as to why they're here on the planet. Because they see the avarice or the amount of vice and corruption that's going on the planet that they move into the realm of seclusion, move themselves away from humanity. But that stunts their growth, their spiritual growth, by being too spiritual and less physical, because we need to be balanced. Both nourishes each other. It's like you go down the gym, all you do is work in the arms, but you never work the rest of the body. So the body becomes unbalanced. So what we experience physically and we overcome helps the spiritual. What we do spiritually helps the physical. So we are both physical and spiritual beings. But to help us navigate our way in the spiritual world, in this physical world, is what we got Panda Babi Ananan for. And he's saying to us, remember that you are a spiritual being as well. And your spiritual being links you to your ancestors. Muslafu. When we go to sleep, it's that time where we could make that connection or that communication to our Muslafu ancestors, or we say Munsabu, relatives who crossed over. The higher ones are called Muslafu, the ancestors, and the higher ones are called Mundaru, ones who are of the overseers. So when we go to sleep, it's the ideal time for our spiritual body to temporarily release itself from the physical and pursue the other realms. And we should really use that sleep state to receive, hear this word, outformation. So when we wake up, it will help us being informed, or to help us on our journey in this physical world. Right? So really what we should be doing is really programming our souls before we go to sleep. And we know, so I hope that helped, Terry, Jamal, Tahuti, Aken.
Yes, it did really help. Maybe just the last part of my question, because I was trying to relate reality with dreams. And I understand that in dream state, there are cases maybe our ancestors are trying to communicate something. So does that affect our reality at that deeper level, or do our ancestors do this on purpose to send us messages which can alter our reality? So, like, what's really the connection with dreams and reality?
Right. That's another good question. Reality is not only physical, but it's also spiritual or etheric, for lack of a better word. Reality is first mental, then it becomes physical. The reason why we say that like that is because everything starts with thought first. Then it becomes physical, or correct? So your ancestors, our ancestors attempt to communicate to us all the time. And that's why that's why the master teacher says we should set up an altar and talk to our ancestors. But you could also talk to your ancestors any time of the day. But the most appropriate time, or the easiest time, is before we go to sleep. Communicate to your ancestors for guidance. And once we get into that practice and receive the subtle messages from our ancestors, things start to happen in our life. And that is what's referred to as, the term they use is synchronicity. Have you heard that term before? We talked about the term synchronicity. Another simple word of synchronicity is like coincidences. That's it. Coincidences, or you just happen to be at the right place at the right time. Hey, you just have to be lucky. What it is, another word for synchronicity is alignment with your physical self, your non-physical self, and the universal forces, your ancestors, all those higher beings. We are in alignment with them. And we gave an example. Let's say the example we gave last time was here. We said, say, for example, you're driving down the road and you want a parking space at a particular spot or location. You say to yourself, I want to get a parking space in this vicinity. You're driving, lo and behold, where you want to park, somebody's pulling out. Is that just luck? No. You say to yourself, I want to buy a particular garment in a shop or whatever. You go up to Primark, lo and behold, there's one jacket that's got your name written on it. Is that just luck? I'm very lucky. No, it's called alignment. It's called synchronicities. That's what it's called. It's called alignment. Now, once we become aware of those instances in our life, there's a part of the brain. Have you heard this part of the brain called the reticular activating system? It's a network of fibers near the brain stem, that begins to switch on. And once the more aware or the more conscious we become of these little synchronicities, the more it starts to grow exponentially. It starts to grow, it starts to grow. And then they reach a point whereby you just have to think of a thing and it is there, it happens. It happens. And that's because there's a thing called part of the brain called the reticular activating system. Check that out on YouTube or reticular or RAH, reticular, no, RAS, reticular activating system. Check that out. For example, another example is you're thinking of buying a car, a Hyundai, whatever. Let's say a BMW 3 Series, the 330, or whatever. A red BMW car, and you're walking down the road, you see red BMW cars left, right, and center. That's because the reticular activating system, portion of the brain, filters these things out, and now you become to recognize. These are now become in your scope or line of vision. Or is it just luck? Or is it just coincidences? No, it's not. It's called alignment. Now, if you can do that just by say you want to buy a car, or you want a parking space, or you go to the shop, you want to buy a red pair of shoes, and you go into the shop, someone says to you, go into that red shop. What's that something that says to you? What's that? That's your higher self. So go into the shop, lo and behold, that red pair of trainers that you wanted is just there, just your size. It's the only size 9 that's there on the shop floor, and it fits you like a Cinderella slipper. It's not luck, it's called alignment. And when these things start to happen, then you say, hang on. Hey, you know something? I can construct my own reality now. And you keep on keeping on. That Chuma D train, you guys heard that Chuma D train? Keep on keeping on. Yeah, go listen to that children. How that answer your question, Samal? Terry, Jamal, Tuhuti, Aken,
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Cool, bro. Any more?
Kobe has his hand up. Kobe,
Go
did you
ahead.
answer?
I was at Zamal Tap. About Zamal. So you mentioned that you don't want to be too spiritual because that will sort of throw you out of alignment, let's say. So you need to use the spiritual to feed the physical and the physical to feed the spiritual. So with can you give some examples on how you could use the physical to feed the spiritual, if that makes sense?
Yeah, that's quite simple, really. Do you know what? First thing we talk about feed, what comes to mind? Say, what comes to mind about feed? What's the first thing comes to your mind?
Food.
Exactly. Good food or bad food or both?
Me personally, good food, but
Yeah,
yeah,
good food. Yeah. Here in the UK, we have to do the best that we can in terms of food, because I know Dr. Sebi said the thing that we should be eating electric food, meaning the food we should be eating should be really plucked direct from the ground. And that food's got electricity in. When you say electricity, we're talking about the life force. The drinks that we drink, it's got the life force in the water that coming in from the rivers, from the mountains. It's got the life force in, it's got the necessary minerals. But here in the West, especially here in the UK, we have to do the best that we can. And one thing that really, one thing I do recommend is saying a little prayer over the food that we eat and the drinks that we drink, because we are sending etheric nutrients. I say we are energizing the food that we're eating, and we are energizing the drinks that we're drinking. And by doing that, we are feeding the spiritual. We are when we say energizing, we are putting microscopic amounts of electricity into that food to nourish us, because we're doing the best that we can in the environment that we're in. Obviously, when we're in the islands, or we're in Africa, or even in India, them areas whereby there's we're taking sun cooked foods, they got the rays there. The food is directly coming from the ground, the earth, from the trees, has the electricity in them. But here in the West, here in London, we just have to do the best that we can, you see. And also it's good to fast on a regular basis, and also to help feed the spiritual is to, there's a cycle of when we should eat food, when we should allow the food to digest, and when the time when we should allow the food to be eliminated. They call that the appropriation. Appropriation, assimilation, and elimination cycle. The appropriation, we're taking food. The assimilation cycle is when that, given the time that's allotted for the food to be digested, and the elimination is when the time for the food, or that which the body wants to get rid of, we go to the toilet. Now, if we just went by those cycles, because let's say roughly the first time you should be eating food is to be about 12 noon. Let's say 8-hour cycles. So from 12 noon to 8 p.m. is when we should be eating food. From 8 p.m. to 8 p.m. to about 12, that's it. 8 p.m. 8 p.m. to about, from 8 p.m. 8 to 12, 8 p.m. and so 8 p.m. to 4 a.m. is the assimilation cycle, that's it. And from 4 a.m. to 12 noon should be the elimination cycle. That's right. So from 12 noon to 8 p.m. is when we should take in food. From 8 p.m. until 4 a.m. is the assimilation cycle. From 4 a.m. to 12 noon again is the elimination cycle. So really 12 noon is the time, is what they call break fast, when you break your fast. Not you wake up at 6 in the morning and you have bangers and mash and whatever, or hard food. Yum a banana. As soon as you wake up in the morning, 5, 6, 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, yum hard food, yummy hard food and whatever, or goosey stew and whatever. You shouldn't have that, that's too heavy. They say once you're having this really water-based foods, if you want something to eat, have some water-based foods. But that cycle alone, the appropriation, assimilation, and the elimination cycle, that in itself is a discipline. You see, and that also will help to nourish the physical and the spiritual and the physical as well. Okay, so when you say what do we have, how can we nourish the spiritual? We do that by nourishing the physical, by what we eat, and also practices like chanting and meditation and prayers, etc., and also by reading. And let's say, for example, let's say you're in Wu-Sabat, you're reading, and you are talking about you're propagating the doctrine to even your school, to your school friends or your work colleagues or other family members. All that, you're also feeding your spiritual as well, just by the mere propagation of Wu-Sabat. The reason why we say that is because the mere fact that you're talking Wu-Sabat, you're putting out the information into the atmosphere, and you are changing the molecular structure of the atmosphere by the mere, or you are imbuing the atmosphere with 9 knowledge just by mere talking to brethren, sistering, you're in the class, you're asking questions regarding etc. etc. We are imbuing the atmosphere with 9 knowledge. It's that simple. I hope that helped, Samal.
Sure. I've got just a quick follow-up to that because I think that was a great answer. I think that's exactly what I needed to hear.
Well
But I guess what the issue for me is where probably before, but more since I've come into knowledge of Wu-Sabat, and I'm taking on the practices more, and I'm building within myself. I guess it's hard because I feel like because I'm getting all this knowledge, I'm becoming more out of touch with normal reality in that respect, because there's a lot of things that I see in people or in society in general that really doesn't. And now I know for a fact with what I've been given by Wu-Sabat that this doesn't align with me anymore. Loads of these things don't align. So I guess I'm just struggling on that end because naturally I've just isolated myself more and more and more. And the more I'm exposed to certain environments, the more I put Wu-Sabat on. And, I kind of realize that actually, no, this isn't where I'm supposed to be, and these kind of things. So I guess that's my struggle in terms of, building my spirituality, but trying to remain physical at the same time.
I hear what
If
you're
that
saying.
makes sense. Mm.
Yeah, that makes sense, perfect sense. Right, Samal, what you have to do, you have to embrace the environment that you're in, because that
Sure.
environment that you're in will help strengthen your being. Do not run from it, embrace it. Embrace the agreeable and the disagreeable. Embrace the disagreeable and the agreeable, because it helps strengthen you. And because of that, because of your experiences that you have experienced and are experiencing, you now can become an example, and based upon your experience, relay that experience to others who are also experiencing the same thing. See, so it's necessary for you to experience what you're experiencing and to go out there and embrace it. And then now when you're talking to other people who are in the same predicament as you are, or say you was in that predicament, you now can relate to them based upon your experience and say to the individual or individuals, brother or sister, I was like that once upon a time, that after coming to Wu-Sabat, I found that I was kind of getting away from the society that I live in, and I realized that that's not the right thing to do. The right thing to do is to embrace the conditions to the point whereby it no longer has an effect on me, because I've built up my armor of God. God, for lack of a better word. You build up your armor, so it no longer has an effect on you. If the environment is having an effect on you, that means then that you have to keep on going until the point whereby you become immune to the effects. You build up your self-defense mechanism like Jet Li. So whatever attack comes the way, you know what's blocked, and kick it out of the way, kick it to the curb.
Rahuba Zamal.
This
is Usir. I just want to add something for Kobina, because I've seen Kobina from when he first started coming class, and I've noticed the changes. So, commends to you, my brother. What I was going to say is, it's the 180, like you're saying, Zamal. It's the 180 and the 180 is mastering both natures. So once you have the 180 and 180, which makes your 360 onto the 720. So if you could probably elaborate a little bit more on that for Brother Kobina.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so yeah, Zamal, it's literally will be what Haptui is saying is literally that, embracing that and learning to exercise both natures when it's necessary and not run away from it. You see what I'm saying? You're supposed to become a 360 onto a 720 being, mastering both natures, mastering both sides, and become, like the brother said, become impervious so that those things don't, rattle your cage. Does that make sense?
Sure, definitely.
So,
Tawata, Zama.
you're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else, Kobe?
No, that's okay for now. I'll ingest that and take that in. Thank you to both of you for your input. Appreciate it.
You're welcome, Zamal. We appreciate your input. Next, anybody else?
Yes, I was still back on the Bill's comment regarding the environments. I guess that for all of us that we are intentional on the spiritual path, we have that feeling, because I understood this question more on a social environment, because he mentioned certain places and people and certain things. What experiencing that on my side, what I decided to do is it was to have clarity on what are the priorities and replace some of the old patterns with the new ones. For example, the priorities, spirituality, of course, then business, then family, and whatever the hobbies that I do, he should have his own. But instead to hang out maybe in restaurants and bars, in order to network with people, they change to conferences. Usually those environments, there is nothing which is against our culture, which intoxicants and such things. So that it's possible to adjust and keep going with what are our goals in terms of people, places, and things, especially when it comes to business, and still get to connect with people related with what we would like to do on the metrics, but without actually exposing ourselves to late nights and intoxicants and such environments. It's still possible, but it will require probably an adjustment into different environments to network, which are very suitable for ourselves.
Yeah, 100% right. Yeah, you see, the thing is that whatever environment that we're in, we can mold it to our advantage. And it's like this. There's a saying, be in the world, but not of it. Know when to pull back. There's a lot of distractions on the planet. There's a lot of distractions around the world. And but those distractions, again, is a necessary part of our experiences. Are we going to allow those distractions to distract us? Or are we going to allow those distractions to dissipate, or use those distractions as a means of strengthening our being? So a distraction can help or it can hinder us, depending on how we align ourselves or look upon those experiences, for lack of a better word. So a distraction can be used, what I'm saying here is a distraction can either help us or hinder us. A distraction can strengthen us or it can weaken us. So use distractions to help strengthen you so that the distractions no longer become a distraction. It no longer affects your being. Okay? Hope that helps. Jose, can I add a bit more to do that.
For sure, it helps a lot. And Zamal, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Also related with the culture. I guess this is something that happens or following spiritual paths, which is related with temptations and the fact that when we start following a spiritual path and then certain things start happening or stop happening in terms of life challenges. Actually, that's the correct word, like life challenges. What is on your take, or what is the best way to navigate in such situations on which, because of certain decisions, which is to grow intellectually, spiritually, our levels of consciousness, we start facing social, family, and even business challenges during this process of consciousness elevation.
So your question, what's the question about?
The question is, what is the best attitude, the best approach within the challenges that are faced for the fact that you have a direction in life? What is the best approach? Because this is something that tends to happen, and it's actually happening.
Yeah. Any challenge, the first thing is to be aware of the challenge. And I'm glad that you used the word challenge, because in life we have challenges and opportunities, and both of them are interrelated. We could turn our challenges into opportunities. We can never have a life that is challenge free, because our challenges is what strengthens us. So look at a challenge as just that, a stepping stone towards greatness. So whether the challenges are within the family structure or within a business structure or a social structure, acknowledge that it is just a challenge, a necessary challenge towards our growth and expansion. And there will come a time whereby those challenges no longer become a challenge, becomes like a walk in the park. There's no getting away from challenges in life, because we all experience them. I don't know nobody who's challenge free. You've seen a Black Panther, it's challenge there. So, I hope that helps somehow.
Yes, it does. Thank you. If it was a religious environment, say trials and overstood very well your response. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Samal. I've got some hands up on Clubhouse. Let's take Leah Sky. Do you want to say something, Leah Sky? Morning, Leah Sky. Also got Nana Yo. But Nana Yo, say something, and Leah Sky.
Zamal, there's a hand up on Zoom if you want to take that one. If that.
Okay, let's take the one on Zoom.
Patricia Harper.
Yes, I had my hands up because as last two brothers were talking about their experiences, realized that I too am going through the same thing. And it's all right, leave names as challenges. So I had my hands up because it's really difficult, because sometimes I feel like the easiest way is just to walk away. But then something within me is saying, no, you have to stay with it and deal with it. Just as you were saying, you have to embrace it. So it's maybe if you could elaborate a little bit more on some of the things that you could do, even though the answers lie within, because each time I do something, I get a response. But then it's like the individual or the individuals will do something else as if they are tempting you, as if it's a test. And with me, I don't have a patience sometimes when it comes to people at that level. But now I have to extend it in order to get past it. So that's what I'm going to a bit more.
Yeah, you said, yeah, you said that you, you need to develop patience, which is a great attribute to develop, because once you develop patience, that means then that you're able to expedite conditions much more, meaning you're able to make conditions work in your favor much more greatly. So when you say that something tells you to stay with it, that's your higher self talking. So there's no quick route towards experiences that we experience in life. It's just that, an experience. And it's what we learn from those experiences. And if you say that you've learned that you're developing patience, then that is what you need to, that's what you're learning. That's what you're picking up from your own experiences, which is, there's a good thing. It's strengthening you as you walk this life, this path we call life. Becomes a great tool in your armor. Hope that helped, Patricia Harper.
Thank you. Yes, it is helping. And the fact that other people are talking about the same thing and it's being addressed, it is helping. Thank you. Thank you so much. And
You're
thanks
welcome.
to participants.
I'd like to say this is that when, sorry. Let's start with Alias Guy, then NY, Nana Yao.
Yeah, I was just waiting for you to bring me up to the top. Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
So I have two questions. The first question is in the master sequence, the 24 elders, the master teacher refers to us as Newapians and Newa as the way Patarak. Where does he reference that we are called Sabaeans? That's my first question. And my second question is, did you say what scroll does the master teacher give the meaning of the Angtui?
The Angtui, I can't remember what role he mentions about the Angtui.
I wanted like a fuller rundown because in the first language scroll, the master teacher gives us, he said it's a simple meaning regarding the Ankh and what the Ankh means. And so I wanted to see if I can get a deeper meaning regarding the Angtui.
Nothing.
And also going back to my first question.
Yeah, the Sabaean. If you look at the Nawapit scroll, one of the teachers, the big one's Nawapit scroll. I haven't got it on me at the moment, but it goes into it about. Yeah, one of the it's like the bigger.
a little bit. You say look in the Neowathic scroll.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of the scroll. It's one, it's a big one. There, he goes into he talks about the language. He talks about Sabians in there.
Okay, it wouldn't be the teacher's guide. Is it a teacher's guide, Neowathic scroll?
Yeah, it could have been you did man, I can't name the name of it now. The name of it kind of slips my mind.
Okay,
Yeah,
all
yeah.
right then. What about my second question? Regarding the Ankh-Tui.
Ankh-Tui basically talks about I can't remember what scroll as it pertains to that, but off the top of my head, the Ankh-Tui basically it talks about the second resurrection. From the first resurrection is when we first we've gone through the schools of religion, and the second resurrection is now when we go into what we call the hereafter doctrine. That's it. Okay, that's the second resurrection.
Okay, are you saying that the Ankh-Tui is a symbolization of the hereafter doctrine?
Correct. Yeah.
So we just said.
That's right.
Okay, and so 1 minute. So can you go back a minute? You know when because okay, so we have the Ankh, right? So then what would if the Ankh-Tui is a follow-on from the Ankh, then what is the master teacher saying is the meaning of the Ankh?
The Ankh.
Symbol?
Yeah, the Ankh basically means the Ankh is like it's like a symbol for what they call life after death. Okay, so in Wu-Sabat, Wu-Nawab, we would say the Ankh would be representative of the first resurrection, which would be from 1970, for us as Musbatu, from 1970 up until the year 2000. And from 2000 AD, so from 2000 AD onwards, when we start getting the hereafter doctrine, that would be in reference to the Ankh-Tui. Now,
okay, so then would you say then that the Ankh is like the key to the next world? Would you say that?
Yeah.
Is it the key to the next world?
That's right, the key to the next world.
And is it like a connection between El and the children of El, the Elohim?
Yeah, the Ankh. How we put it, you can use that term if you want to take it the Ankh, like as in the first resurrection. So you can use that terminology. But now we know that when you talk about El or the Most High, we now talking about Pa Nadaru, the overseer, the Tiru. Correct?
Okay.
So the Ankh-Tui now will be that. It will be that which, as we said earlier on, pertains to the hereafter doctrine. Now, these
of the doctrine. Okay. So is there a scroll that you refer me to where I can read on that some more?
Nothing comes to mind at the moment, unfortunately. I know some of the student teachers on board on Zoom or Clubhouse can aid you with that question. Let it be made known that these are our symbols, and we can attribute those. You can attribute meanings to our own symbols as it pertains to our culture. And we have that right, that heritage to introduce new signs and symbols and meanings to that as it pertains to us as a nation. Because we are the ones who are writing the script, or really it's you, the feminines, who are writing the script for this new 24,000 year cycle. And we rewrite, we introduce symbols as it pertains to us according to how we see fit. We are creating our own construct for us and bias. Okay. Hope that helped there, Zamalta. Welcome. Nana Yao.
Yeah. Um, I wanted to ask this question. Did we ask to come here?
Yeah, the simple answer is yes. We asked to
Okay,
come.
so if we, yeah, okay. So if there's a yes, if we did ask to come here, that means we also have the right to ask whoever we ask to be here to guide us and to direct us. So if that is the answer that you said yes, so why all this suffering and why this that we have to go through all the schools, classes, and this and that, and the suffering and you know, all, we see what is going on right now. So if we really asked to come here, who would ask to come to this planet or this earth to suffer? You know, as a nine either being, I mean, the small studies that I've made, we used to be powerful, or we are powerful, or we are God. So if we are God and we ask to be here, why do we have to go through all this? I mean, when I say all this, I mean all this suffering, all this, and what is going on right now, especially us, the black people. You know, I don't really get it.
Right. Do you know, first of all, it's a good question you're asking there, Samal. Now, what it is that we was in a death cycle and we're coming out of it. We're coming out of a death cycle. Now, the reason why we asked to come here for one thing and one thing alone, and that is experience. We wanted to, the Master Teacher says in the Holy Tablets, we came here because we wanted to exercise will. I didn't say free will, I said will. The ability to decide upon a course of action. And really, it's for experience. Now, we go through a lot of suffering and deaths, but we know that we do not die. Death is not the finality of existence. It is just existence on a higher vibratory frequency. So we may shed the physical body, but not the spiritual or the etheric body. You see? And
okay, that means okay, go ahead.
So let's say a lot of us went through being murdered and raped, etc., etc. Nature never forgets nor forgives. And because of the harshness that we have endured as a race throughout the years, the Master says nature will let nature take its course. There's a book called Breaking the Spell on Blacks, and the Master Teacher put it like this. We have forgiveness, mercy, and justice. Forgiveness is temporary transference of guilt from the guilty to the forgiver. Temporary transference of guilt from the guilty or perpetrator to the forgiver. Temporary transference, that basically means in that the person, let's say son of another race, does you harm, and you say, I forgive that person. What you have done, you have temporarily transferred justice from the guilty to yourself. However, that does not satisfy the laws of justice. Mercy is a delay of justice. That's all it is. And justice is for the Master put justice is for the crimes committed, not for not for the seed that has been sown, but for the seed that has been reaped. What that means is that somebody commits a crime, and from that one crime or atrocity, has multiplied many different other atrocities. That individual and all those that help to perpetuate those atrocities, they too will receive justice. So, going back to your question, we asked to come here to experience. Go ahead, Simone.
So do I get the justice for myself, or who will get this justice for me then?
Oh yeah, that's the forces of nature. The forces of nature does that. And the justice can be in the form of anything. The forces of nature, those 9 etheric forces never forgive, nor do they forget. And that goes through the lineage. That's law. We call that justice, ma'at. Yeah, see, so
We actually come here. How would I know that I've been here before?
that's a good question. The master said that, you know what? How would you know that you had multiple incarnations?
Yes. One of the master's teacher of teachings that we all of us have been here about 24,000 times. We can be here for 24,000 times. But I mean that's why we have the word deja vu, because sometimes you will see a scene or a thought or anything that reminds you, or will just click you that it's like this has been here, it has happened to you before. So that tells me that I might be here before. So how would I know? And is there any practice, or is there anything to do to know if I have been here before? Because there are a lot of things going on right now. Through this, I've been always searching for the truth, and to this point where I am right now with Wu-Sabat, I know that I'm at the right place. But there are a lot of questions, and there are a lot of things that I'm reading and researching and listening and all that about Wu-Sabat. But there are still some questions, some very simple questions that need to be answered, and this is one of them.
Oh, how do you know that you've been here before? Sorry, as a matter, off the top of my head, I can't really answer that for you. But what I can say is, what the master did say, excuse me, excuse me. What the master did say is that when we came here, he said, when Wu-Sabat or right knowledge comes around, we would gravitate towards it. Excuse me. So now, what that means is that we have what's called a pre-programmed. We have locked within our DNA like a wake-up call, so that when we hear Wu-Sabat, we hear the master's voice, or we read a scroll, it would awaken an alarm clock within ourselves or within our DNA. And that awakening is what we refer to as a DNA explosion. An awakening that's timed to go off right now. So in terms of knowing past life experience, I personally do not kind of answer that for yourself somehow. I think that's something that you would have to come to that realization. And one thing we have to realize is that all our past lives are interconnected. Now, the trick and the trap is this thing called past, present, and future. And we can, hear this, alter our past based upon how we think in the present and change and write a future. How can we alter the past when it has already happened? Time does not move in a direction. It's not linear. Time is around us, through us, in all directions. Past, present, and future is happening right now. And all we have to do is to change the past. What we do is change what we're going to do. Take a different course of action. And by taking a different course of action, because it's like this, what we did yesterday has an effect on what we're doing today. And what we're doing today has an effect on what we're going to do tomorrow. So in order to change the past, we've got to change the trajectory or the path that we're doing right now. And by changing the path, what we're doing right now, we are creating a different path tomorrow. And by creating a different path tomorrow, we've created a new path. It took me a while, to get around that concept. That the past is not unchangeable, it's not fixed. We can rewrite the past simply by rewriting what we're doing right now. And what we're doing right now will create a different future. And when we say future, we not necessarily mean in 24 hours, we mean a new future could happen in a matter of moments. Change what we're doing right now, rather than go and having juice. I'm gonna start drinking water from now on. And by keep on maintaining that practice, you just change your future. You just change your past, because now you have recreated a new past or new habits. Let's see. That is another concept that we have to get over, this thing called time, past, present, and future, because they're happening right now. And that is another imprisonment as well, another construct. See? There's a thing called natural time.
I get it. That makes sense, man. Thank you.
Okay, so Mark, you're welcome. Do you know something? And what we've been teaching, really, it requires a thing called introspection. Introspection is another way of saying taking that journey inside out, outside in, looking at ourselves from the inside and the things that we don't like about ourselves. Let's start correcting that. And the things that we do like about ourselves, let us enhance that. It's called introspection. You follow? That is the journey. And the master teacher uses another word, and he calls it self-exorcism, meaning getting rid of those demons that's inside of us. Another way of saying introspection, self-introspection. Or another word you may hear of is called self-realization. These are different terms, all meaning the same thing. Introspection, self-exorcism. Yeah, these are all the same thing. We are aiming towards self-realization, and from self-realization, we're taking those steps towards self-mastery. These are stepping stones towards self-mastery, self-realization. You see, we are continually learning. Learning about what? Learning about self. Okay, so I hope that helps. And also, yeah, and also another thing that also helps is when we said earlier on, propagation of the doctrine. Because when we're propagating the doctrine, the master teacher put it like this: what we teach ourselves is what we need to learn ourselves. I just want to read something out here about on the chat room here, Clubhouse. Ruth Kaya says this: you are on the right path. Before you go to bed, set your intentions to meet with your spiritual guides and ask them to guide you. Ask about your Akashic record. The master, teacher, as it happens, I've got a book here called Akashic Records. Perhaps we could touch on that in the next class, but that's quite a big book to go for, a big scroll to go for. Actual fact number 72. I think the brother Ruth Kaya, since he mentioned that word Akashic Records, you can also buy that scroll called Akashic Records by the master teacher. Actual fact number 72. And he did mention the thing again. He says that you're on the right path. Before you go to bed, set your intentions to meet your spirit guides and ask them to guide you. 100% correct. See, the reason why why I have to mention is because when you go to sleep, is the time when the spiritual body temporarily has that time to release itself to go into that higher vibratory realms. Okay. Anybody else? Is it Tibbs? Got 7 minutes left.
Yeah.
Tibbs, hand up.
My question is really two kinds. One, you talked of we came down. So where is the normal state of being? Is it this one, and is this the 9 ether plane where all the planets and the different solar systems? Or is it we came down from somewhere? Is that where we are? Which is normal? Don't have a good word to say about normal. Like, where would be the resting place?
Yeah, that's a good question. When you say normal, normal goes back to, when you say normal, we're really talking about living according to the rules of natural nature. That's normal. The environment that we live in a abnormal, we're living in an abnormal construct. Now, during COVID, they used a word called the new normal. Now, that's a trick word because the world we was living in prior to the term new normal was abnormal in the first place. A normal environment is an environment that we are living in conformity with the rules of natural nature, what we construct by us, for us. That is normal. Now, when you talk about a ninth ether environment, a ninth ether environment is an environment where wherever we reside and we are instituting those 9 ether forces based upon 9 knowledge, 9 thinking, 9 mind, 9 ether, 9 to the 9th power of 9. And when you say where we came from, we was always here. We have multiple layers to our being, not just physical, but according to what they call, as a word they use, according to quantum physics, we are in multiple places at the same time. And whatever I want to say, whatever I'll use the word I want to use is I'm trying to find out a good word to use. Whatever we focus our attention on is where we are for that moment. Okay. So now, even though we're here physically, our consciousness is here physically, we have parts of our etheric being is at other locations as well. So we have to come to that realization or raise ourselves up to the point of realizing with our real life that we are omnipotent beings. We are part of the omniverse. As a collective, we are multiverses. As an individual, we are one universe. We are a macrocosm, as you said earlier on in class, we are a macrocosm, so we are a microcosm of the macrocosm. And the forces that constructed the universes, we have those essence or those forces within inside of us. And with the help of Parnababi and Wu-Sabat and the higher beings, we can elevate to the higher heights. It all depends on us as an individual. Or as we say, we can succeed as part of the all or fail as an individual.
It does answer some questions, but it raises more questions to me. You said, if we are omnipotent, then we are already everywhere. So then how can we come down, or how can we go up to higher existence?
Yeah, right. The same way how we came down, we use the same methodology to go back up. Okay, and this is what right knowledge is here to do, to help us raise our vibrations. And when we say go up, not in terms of direction, but in terms of expansion. You see, like a pebble, as small as it is, when it's dropped into a pool of water, there's a ripple that expands out. And we are like that. That pebble that when we drop into that river and we are expanding out. And the expansion is the different vibratory rates. So when we say raise our vibration, we're not talking about as in love, as in going up like in the lift floor, 1, floor 2. We're talking about as in terms of expansion. And that's why we use the term the all expanding. We are part of existence. We are part of all as the all. All is I am. All is existence. I am existence. I am a part of the all. I am a part of existence. And the all is a part of me. Existence is a part of me.
Thank you.
You follow?
So, will there therefore be a time when I will not be physical?
Yeah, that time is when you cross over, when you make the transition, when you shed the physical. There are two ways. You could either shed the physical, I would say you cross over, or you can transform and turn yourself inside out into an Etherian while still alive. See? So
then what would say, what is my resting place is etheric being, not physical. It's the etheric being that came down to experience physically.
Your etheric being, 100% right. We came down etherically as light. We came down as light that ignited the spiritual, the sperm of your father spiritually. That is when the etheric life force of you came down into the sperm of your father, and when the sperm hit the egg of your mother, is when the physical you started to grow. Okay, so we came down etherically into the sperm of the father through the medulla oblongata, from the crown chakra through the medulla oblongata, when the sperm, the etheric counterpart of the sperm, traveled up the spine, fused with your etheric self, transported itself into the sperm, and when the connection between the sperm and the egg met, is when your physical life started to grow. They use the term conception. So there is inception, there is conception, the mother conceived, and there's reception. Inception occurred 3 months prior to conception. So there are 3 stages: inception, conception, and reception, where reception is birth. Okay, I hope you got that, Simone.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Fam, unfortunately, Yvonne Herring, unfortunately, we run out of time. The landlords give me the, you have to pull the shutters down. Yvonne Herring, unfortunately, we run out of time. Can we still be heard? Are we still on Clubhouse? What's happening there?
Do it.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so yeah. So until next time, fam. Next week, we come to the end of today's class. First of all, let me just like to say that thank you all for taking time out from Clubhouse, Zoom, and those of you here at the chat store. Remember that you all are the ones who make the class. And as student teachers of the master teacher, what we teach is what we really need to learn ourselves. So inadvertently, we really are teaching ourselves, and each and every one of us are also teaching self and kind. And teaching, coming in the room like this, a student teacher, teacher student, we're all learning. With that being said, I'd like to welcome, thank you once again for coming to class, up on Zoom. Next week's class will be taken by the Zamal Usier Ka'areye, same time, same place. I'll just say, Wadu, farewell.
Wadu.
Wadu.
Wadu.